Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd please stand with me for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the blessings you give to each and every one of us here tonight. We pray tonight that you will be with council and mayor and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for those serving the armed forces abroad and serving in harm's way. Be with them, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Amen. Councilman Conley, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started this evening, we have a couple special things we'd like to do. Jack, if you'd like to go first, please.
First of all, I'd just like to tell you a story, just to get started here.
You got to talk in the microphone, please. You can bend it.
Early this morning, I was driving down Route 7. It was about 7 o'clock. A beautiful morning. And I happened to see this bird flying across the field. And partway across the field, I realized it was a gray heron. I thought, boy, that's pretty. Then I realized it had something in its beak hanging out. And I thought, yeah, it's got a chipmunk. As I got closer to it, I could tell it had a bullfrog hanging out its mouth, and its legs were dangling down out of its beak, and I thought, that's a bad day right there. So, Mayor Rapp, Recorder Ms. Smith, City Council, as Chairman of the Vienna Tree and Beautification Commission, it gives me a great pleasure to come to you tonight to pay recognition to a local business here in the city. Scott's Landscape Nursery Incorporated. Glad to have some of the members of the Vienna Tree Commission with me. Back last winter at a Tree and Beautification Committee meeting, Jamie Wachowski made the fatal mistake. She missed a meeting. She was actually attending her father-in-law's 80th birthday party, and we had a talk with her afterwards about getting your priorities straight. You know, you come into our tree meetings or you go to the 80th birthday party. But anyway, as we were at the meeting, we were, as a board, we discussed the need to recognize and show appreciation for the many things that they have done for the city of Vienna that no one knows about. A lot of the stuff. You know what you see, but there's a lot of stuff you don't see. Such as the tree prunings on Grand Central Avenue. Those were done at a greatly reduced price for the city. And why? Because they were citizens of the city of Vienna. You know, not just the tree trimming, but design ideas for the city, tree donations, shrub donations, advice that they give us all the time, you know, that we can seek out their advice, and it's good advice. It's tested advice. So we recognized, and the Tree Commission did, and also I talked to Public Works, to Craig Metz, and I said, Craig, Scott's Landscaping. I said, what's your experience? And he said, Jack, it's been good. He said, you know, he said, simple projects like we did the wildflower planting up at 60th Street and plantings with wildflowers here or flower plantings. He said, I could seek out their advice and they helped me greatly. We know they worked with the Pond Run project, you know, and they helped Craig on that, on Pond Run. Steve Black, last night at our park board meeting, mentioned that, you know, he had talked with Scott about drainage on the ball fields. So they're always there, you know, they're citizens of the city of Vienna, and they're always willing to pitch in and do what it takes to try to help out. And, you know, we need to recognize stuff like that. And we need to appreciate it, because we live in times where everybody wants to criticize everything. And we need to recognize and appreciate some things sometimes. So Scott's one thing about them that I can say, that when they've done projects for us that we don't have to worry about, they tend to the details. You know, when you do a project, you've got the overall project to do, but they tend to the little details, the details that really just makes it that much nicer, that much finished, that much more complete, and it's great to work with them on anything. And then, you know, they're truly a professional company, and they strive to provide satisfaction to us on anything they do. They check back with us. And as a city, why would we expect anything less? We shouldn't. The thing about Scott's, look at their business up there. It's a business that's built on a strong foundation. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's built on a rock up there. It's a boulder that they build on. So, and what does that say? When you look at that and you say, well, they're built on a rock. What kind of vision did that take? That somebody looked at a rock and said, I'm going to establish my business here. I mean, I drove past that for years as a kid. It was just ugly. Kids rode their bicycles on it. When they first started building their business there, and I said, what's somebody building? I said, what are they building? And they said, somebody's putting a nursery there. And I said, well, how successful is that going to be? I said, they aren't going to get a tree to grow on that rock up there, I said, but they established a business there. And, the growth that they've had, you look at how they've grown. And it's happened over years. And, through those years, there's been good times and there's been tough times. But they've persisted through those times, and they've expanded. I look forward to every winter when I'm driving up that way at late winter and early spring to when I can look over. I can see a new project starting, and you wonder what they're developing up there. It's a first-class operation, and it's founded by people that have a Christian walk. They've got good hearts. So with all that being said, we'd like to recognize Scott's Landscaping this evening. Paul, could you come up?
All the fingerprints are free. They're free. If they one of the fingerprints only would have made it out sometimes glass.
I'd like to read this to you. You guys come up here too, you stand behind me in case somebody attacks me from behind. It says, in recognition of and appreciation thereof, the City of Vienna Tree and Beautification Commission recognizes Scott's Landscape Nursery Incorporated for their commitment to enhance the aesthetics and promote the quality of life in Vienna, West Virginia. Part of your work here in this city is part of the reason that Vienna ranks third, I believe, in the best places to live in the state of West Virginia. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Right here, maybe get a picture. You didn't bring your phone?
No, I took one already.
Oh, you did already, good, okay. You got it. Get one.
Paul wants to say something.
Well, I'm the guy that hangs off of the water truck every morning, and I water the baskets usually first. And they take the most water, some days a gallon and a half for each one. And hot days, you gotta water them every other day. When it's super hot days, you gotta water them every day. And they're my babies. Don't touch it. A truck hit one on 51st Street, we've gotta replace it tomorrow, so, we love our flowers, we love the city of Vienna. I live in the city of Vienna, there's no place like it. My neighbor, Roger Conley, right next door to me, and appreciate him and all the things you all do for this city. You make it a great place to live, it's a fine place. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's truly an honor tonight to introduce to you a longtime resident of the city of Vienna. As you all are aware, we just had the the remembrance of D-Day. And so, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Fred Carpenter. Fred, if you'd come up with me, please. I do my homework. It's a rather odd statistic that the photo of the ship that you see there is the USS Shasta. That is the ship that Fred served on for about 36 months?
32.
32 months. And as far as we know, there are only 3 surviving members of the crew, and 2 of them are here in Vienna.
Same street.
Okay? Fred, 94 years old. Bill Poole, who is 99 years old, and he wasn't able to make it this evening. And I don't know where the other gentleman's at, but
Allah.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay? But I wanted you to meet Fred because it's very, very rare that you get to meet someone with the history that he has. And in reading the stories about the USS Shasta, the typhoon that you went through, I have no idea how terrible that could have been.
It was.
But we'd like to have you tell us a story. I don't care what it is. Tell us a story about your adventures.
Well, the typhoon, we'll start there. We was headed a rendezvous for the fleet and had to go, and we could have bypassed, but they said no. And it hit, and it was 20-some detonators, 29 or something like that, broke loose, and they took all of our mattresses and dropped them in it, and we should have rolled over. It rolled over 47 degrees and come back. And there was Chuck, 250 16-inch shells fell one deck on 1,000-pound bombs and didn't go off. And at 1 minute you could look out and see nothing because of the waves, and the next time you could see ships. And you know, in the Bible there it says, you know, Christ was in the boat and going across the lake and how the wind come up and he calmed it. Well, the next morning that ocean was as smooth as that floor. He calmed it overnight, and everywhere you looked, there was a ship. But our Shasta was the first ship in the Navy that ever transferred ammo at sea. And, but then one of the highlights, I think there was 5 stars, but Iwo Jima when he raised the flag. And there was 500 ships there, and after all these years, the flag that was aboard our ship was the only flag left, and it's in the museum in D.C. now, after 500 ships and that flag. But, you know, it was kind of an experience, but that's the past. Yeah, look for the future.
The 2 pictures that you see up there, the bottom ship is the USS Shasta, which he said was an ammunition ship. The top photo is of the cables stretching from the ship over to an aircraft carrier. And so I know that you were very active in that.
Oh, yeah.
And but at any rate, I have something I would like to do.
Your aunt said hello. Hello back to my aunt.
I'd like to read you this proclamation. Whereas Fred Carpenter, in true patriot form, was born on July the 4th, 1925. And whereas Mr. Carpenter was a longtime employee of DuPont and moved to the Vienna area in 1959. And whereas World War II produced what many consider the greatest generation. And whereas Fred Carpenter served during World War II above the USS Shasta from 1943 to 1946, serving the areas of Okinawa and Iwo Jima for 32 straight months without leave. And whereas Mr. Carpenter is one of 3 living members having served the USS Shasta, one of the others being Mr. William Poole, also of Vienna, West Virginia. And whereas Fred Carpenter, a cancer survivor since 1993, when given 4 months to live, continues to be physically active, doing 200 sit-ups a day. Okay? Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Randall C. Rapp, do hereby proclaim Thursday, June the 13th of 2019 as Fred Carpenter Day, and encourage all citizens of the city of Vienna to recognize and celebrate the service of Fred Carpenter to its community, state, and country. We wish him continued good health and abundant happiness. Fred, thank you for
I'd like to say another thing. Randy said something about cancer. There was 4 of us, and Randy knows every one of them. He worked at DuPont. And they give me 4 months to live. And in April of 1994, I was in church, and my lungs was healed in church. I did lose a kidney, but I took no chemotherapy, no radiation, no nothing, and I yet today do not take any medicine. So give God all the glory. Amen.
I thought that was going to be the case.
I want to say one last thing about Fred before I sit down. I've known him a long time, and I can tell you right now, he is a very skilled person at anything he does. And if you came to him and you said, I have a project I'd like to do, even if it was something about I want to build a 2-story addition on my house, he would look at you and say, let me get some 2x4s, I'll be right there. And that's a fact. Fred, thank you. All right. Okay. Now we move on to the public forum. Lawrence Wilson will be first.
Good evening. My name is Lawrence Wilson. I live at 1312 10th Street here in Vienna.
Mr. Wilson, could you move the microphone a little closer, please? It'll bend. Just, there you go.
Won't take too long. One thing I didn't think I'd be speaking about, when I was wandering around and found out that Mr. Thornton had finally retired again. Didn't surprise me. Yeah, he's taken a beating over the last year or two and probably figured enough was enough. So I guess he's out sitting on his porch chasing bears and bats. But the thing we're looking at tonight, over the past few months, we've talked about pay raises. $2,000 went through with no problem. $4,000 went through with no problem. And all of a sudden, somebody said, wait a minute, 5,500 in pennies, that's getting to be a bit much. And it got stonewalled for at least one meeting. I don't doubt, but by now somebody's got their arm bent, and we're going to have a 4-3 or a 5-2 vote by the time this settles. But I still think that's excessive to give somebody that much of a raise. The one thing that never came up, though, and it started last year, health insurance premiums. Now finally, after longer than some people have been alive in this room, they went from nothing to up to another $30 a month to a grand total of $129, and we'll look at it again next year. We need to start leveling it out, making it fairer to people. Well, I haven't heard anything in this budget about raising premiums again by as much as a penny. And yet, we've went from $2,000 raises to $4,000 raises. Last year, it was $2,000 with $30 raise, and half the city went on food stamps. So it would seem to me that to raise this up some more, and I think it's probably way too late, this thing got slid through again, it's kind of unfair to the community. And if it can be changed, I believe you folks ought to take a look at it and do right by the folks. Thank you.
Bud?
My name is Bud Nonamaker. I live at 1409 31st Street in Vienna. The last meeting that we had here, we was going to bring an ordinance on the floor about the feeding of the deer, not hunting, feeding. Well, after it was discussed for a while, one councilman said, I never got anything on it, so I don't know what I'm voting for. There was another councilman that wasn't here. It should have been tabled. But after we brought it on the floor, we talked about it, about how it was going to be looked at. The Vienna Police Department don't have time to take care of the feeding of the deer or writing the tickets and stuff. But on the paper here that you all had, and you all had that the Vienna code enforcer could write a citation. The park department could write a citation. It never went that far. After the Vienna Police Department said, well, that's putting a load on us, you all voted on it, it didn't pass. I'd like to see it brought back on the floor again, and we'll talk about these other ones that's on here to that could write the citations and take care of this. I would like to see it brought back on the floor for another vote next meeting, but I'd like to have it discussed. You know, like I say, there's one council member said he didn't even get a paper. He didn't know what he was voting for, but he voted with the rest of you to drop it. And that's not right. That's, to me, that's like I'm sitting up there and someone brings up a motion, I don't know anything about it, I'll raise my hand with the rest of you. It's not right to do that. Okay? Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Kim?
Good evening. Kim Williams. I live on 49th Street in Vienna. So I was here last time, and I requested that council sponsor a resolution allowing for the documents for the upcoming agenda to be disclosed to the public on the day the agenda comes out. Many municipalities, including Parkersburg, release these documents before their council meetings so citizens have an opportunity to be informed about what's going to be happening at the meeting. So I asked the council for the resolution because, for whatever reason, we have turned this into a Freedom of Information Act scenario. So you have to FOIA the city in order to get these public documents regarding the business before the council. So Tuesday afternoon, I FOIA'd the city, okay? And so here's what it said. I respectfully request the supporting documents for the upcoming regular council meeting scheduled for June 13th, 2019. The agenda has been set and publicly posted, therefore the document should be ready and already distributed to the members of the Vienna City Council. Given this fact, Ms. Barr should be able to produce a copy per my request before the council meeting Thursday night. Well, as you probably guessed, I kind of got the runaround and didn't get very far. I called maybe here 5 times today. And Ms. Barr had told me that the mayor would have to release the documents that I requested. Well, obviously I'd never got them this evening. So I'm trying to figure out why not. I mean, these actions don't meet the minimum standard for transparency. You know, one must wonder, I hate to say this, one must wonder why the city wants to operate by keeping the public in the dark. Who does the secrecy serve? Why does Vienna create barriers to information when other municipalities make theirs freely available? So I think council needs to remember, you're doing the people's business. This is not anything personal. It's not your personal business. This is the business of us, the people who live in Vienna. I live in Vienna. I own a business in Vienna. I'm just asking for documents that honestly should be made available without any hassle. You know, but somehow this has gotten turned into a big ordeal, and it shouldn't be that way. It's not that way other places. It's not that way even in Parkersburg. So I'm calling on council to be transparent. Pass a resolution allowing the documents to be released when the agenda comes out. It's simple. You work for the people, so please be transparent. Pass the resolution so that those of us who want to look at the documents can. Thank you.
Mark Anderson.
I live on 24th Street in Vienna, and I would just like to thank the city very much for getting our roof replaced. However, the contractor said the neighbor's pine trees need to be maintained and trimmed away from our property, from our roof, or we will have continual problems. They're also facing structural problems from those pine tree roots. They're cracking our porch and driveway and probably damaging our foundation. We would like to have our property looked at by the mayor and see what he can do. And I have some pictures here, if I could get them on here. As you can see, the trees hang way over our foundation, way over our house. And the contractor trimmed what they could reach, but they're all over the place. And you can see what it's doing to our patio. It's cracking all across there. And it's cracking in our driveway. And we've been continually trying to repair them, and they just keep cracking worse and worse. So I hope that the mayor will be able to do something about it, or have somebody come out to suggest what needs to be done. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay, really appreciate it.
Well, is there a better time for you?
Now, any time tomorrow would be, well, any time in the morning or late in the afternoon after about 3 o'clock.
Okay, tomorrow is Flag Day, so we have our Flag Day celebration at 9.
Oh, okay.
I will try to be there right after that, so shall we say 10?
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Mayor, may I go with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you coming to Flag Day?
I'll try, yeah.
Okay, if you do, we'll go right after that, Bruce. If not, I'll meet you or pick you up, whatever you want.
Okay.
Sure, thank you. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for June the 13th, 2019. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present, with the exception of our attorney, Mr. Skogstad. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the regular council meeting held on May the 23rd, 2019 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Report of the treasurer, Councilman Leach.
Yes, Mayor. I've been provided reconciliation funds for City of Vienna for June 13th, 2019. I've reviewed the accounts. They appear in order, and the city is financially sound.
Thank you. We have no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move right into new business. We have a guest with us this evening from the city of Parkersburg. Ryan, if you would get up and talk to us about the home consortium, please. It's on the other end.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for having me. Like the Mayor said, my name is Ryan Barber with the City of Parkersburg. I was here tonight to present the Parkersburg Wood County Home Consortium 2019-2020 annual budget. Like every year, the City of Parkersburg administers on behalf of the City of Williamstown, the City of Vienna, the Wood County County Commission, and the City of Parkersburg to administer home funds. Home funds are provided through the U.S. Housing and Urban Development to primarily address affordable housing in low-income neighborhoods and for low-income individuals. So I can go through each line item here briefly and address any questions you may have at the end. So with our annual allocation, we were set to receive a little over $300,000 and a little over $200,000 in programmatic income for the year. Every year, we are required to provide a certain percentage of our allocation to a community housing development organization, or a CHODO. That is Habitat for Humanity, and like every year, we provide them leveraged funds to build one single family home for a low-income eligible family. Next, we provide the down payment assistance program. The City of Parkersburg administers that program, and that is offered to any eligible person purchasing their first home in Wood County. So if you're looking at purchasing a home in Vienna, Williamstown, Mineral Wells, you're certainly eligible to apply for that program. That can provide up to $10,000 in down payment assistance or closing cost assistance to first-time home buyers. Once again, we are working with Children's Home Society to offer a long-term rental assistance program to at-risk youth age 17 through 22. So they work with these youth and provide life skills and hopefully make them self-sufficient by providing rental assistance between 18 and 24 months. One of the larger line items here is a financial incentive that would go for a housing developer to build affordable housing units anywhere in the county or in the city of Parkersburg or Vienna. And then one of the new programs that we have this year is the Affordable Housing Leverage Fund. Several years ago, we administered a program that was very popular where we are able to offer low interest or zero interest loans to landlords to provide maintenance, rehab, acquisition, improvements to their units, and hopefully they can offer better housing options for their tenants. And like I said, that's new for us this year. Haven't done that in several years, so we're really excited about that, and hopefully it's proves popular once again. So again, that's the budget. I've met before Wood County Commission this week, and the budget was passed through City Council on Tuesday. We'll be meeting with the City of Vienna, or sorry, the City of Williamstown next Tuesday. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Ryan? All right. Then I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that the Parkersburg Wood County Home Consortium annual plan for the year 2019 to 2020 is hereby adopted. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution approving the Home Consortium annual plan for 2019-2020. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Ryan, thank you.
Appreciate it.
The next item on our agenda this evening is a bid approval for the police department for new cruisers. Sealed bids. Excuse me, Mr. Leach, would you care to do that?
Yes, Mayor. We did receive sealed bids. The bidder responding was Matheny Ford LLC. This is not on a state contract. They bid $34,633 each. This bid was opened by the finance department and, or at the bid opening, and it was passed unanimously to forward to council for consideration for the purchase of those two police interceptor utility vehicles.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the low bid and only bid from Matheny Ford LLC in the amount of $34,633 for two Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid from Matheny Ford LLC. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of accepting the bid, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Chief, what's the expected delivery on those?
Just have to get in line to order them. They usually they come in September. The sooner you can order them, the better. So you get ready to get in line.
Okay, all right, thank you. The next item on our agenda this evening is a bid approval for the fire department for the financing of the refurbished 1995 Pierce fire truck. Chief Scholl is with us here this evening. The total combined project cost on this was almost $500,000. And thanks to the generosity of the Vienna Volunteer Fire Department and the extremely well-managed funds that they have, the fire department contributed back to the city $200,000 against the cost of this project. Steve, I can't tell you what an exemplary fire department you have and how well they manage the money that they do receive. So I want to thank you for that. It's just incredible what you all do and the things that you do for the city day in and day out. So thank you very much for that.
That money that used for that comes from the 1% of the homeowner's insurance premium that you tax get put on that. That's all part. We use that for like a savings fund for these big items, and it works great for us. So we appreciate it.
Mr. Leach, on my sheet for the sealed bids, I do not have the total dollar amount. Do you have that?
I do not.
The city's part is roughly 269, some dollars and some change. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, I thought it was 270,000, Steve, so,
Right at that, yeah.
okay, all right. Okay. Mr. Leach, if you would give us the bids, please.
Yes, the sealed bids were open on Friday, May 30th, 2019 at 9 a.m. with the following results. We had United Bank building, we had the all of the lenders bid on 4, 5, and 6-year terms. United Bank bid 4 years at 2.99, 5-year at 3.05, 6-year at 3.15. BB&T was open 4 years 2.71, 5-year 2.75, 6-year 2.80. West Banco 4 years 2.99, 5 and 6 years the same 2.99. MCNB Banks 4-year 4.25, as well for 5 and 6-year terms. After review of the bid proposals, the recommendation for council is the approval from Budget and Finance Committee for the financing at BB&T only on a 4-year note for 2.71%.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the BB&T financing package for 4 years at 2.71% for the other half of the financing for the refurbishing of the 1995 Pierce fire truck.
Move for approval.
Yep, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Chief, now that you've had this done, how far does it extend the life on this truck?
Roughly 15 to 20 more years of life of the truck. Like I said, this truck was perfect set up for this refurb due to the relative low use of the truck. And it's not a frontline pumper like we do it. Our pumpers are not a good deal for the refurb. This truck just worked out great, 22,000 miles on it, so this worked great. And we've got
And if we had to buy a new truck to replace this instead of rebuilding it, what would it have cost?
Approximately 1.2 to 1.5 million dollars.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any further discussion? All right, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the financing package from BB&T for 4 years at 2.17%, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Chief, you are dismissed to go get ready for the
Nice to show you tomorrow night. It's going to be great. Please come out.
There you go. Chief, thank you. We move on to item number 4. It's an internal budget revision number 4. Mr. Leach?
Internal budget revision number 4 is, as just said, is all internal budget transfers to cover various shortfalls among various departments, which is listed in front of all council members. Some of this has to do with shortfalls with respect to unexpected repairs, also some personnel shortfalls for vacation and so forth, and some street, pool, and Mr. Black gave a list of the issues that with respect to the pool and parks. And so internal budget revision number 4 does not affect any budgeted departments, just internal changes.
No new money is involved. It's just line item transfers. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of internal budget revision number 4, and this will be the last budget revision, hopefully, for the year. This is the last scheduled budget revision.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve internal budget revision number 4. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, even though these are internal budget revisions, I'd like for each one of these line items to be read so everyone can know exactly what line items we're talking about, what departments we're talking about, and what the dollar amounts are, please.
Mr. Leach, I will be glad to read those, but would you, well, if you know, I'll take mine up, Jim.
Okay.
And I'll put mine up there so that people can follow along as you do that.
All right. Pardon?
Can you all see those, or do I need to blow it up a little?
It's awful small.
Got it? Are you ready? First department's finance. The first budget revision salaries to cover budget shortfall. Budget before change 118,600. Expenditure amount was 2504 with a net increase to 121,104 to that department line item. Corresponding FICA charges 8,500, increased by 400 to 8,900. Retirement 10,950, and again corresponding increase 440. Budget after change 11,390. Group insurance 59,277, a return of 3344 for a net decrease to 55,933. City auditor retirement, again, cover budget shortfall, budget before balance $4,650, increase $575. Budget after change $5,225. Materials and supplies was $1,500, debited by the $575, reduced to $925. For personnel, group insurance budget shortfall, budget before change was $12,745. Expenditure change was $6,900 to an increase of $19,645. Contract services, budget before change $47,000, debited $5575, net change $41,425. Legal publications, budget before change $575, debited $575 to a balance of 0. Training and education, budget before change $1,000, debited by $750, net different budget after change $250. Purchasing department, retirement budget shortfall $2,550 before change, $500 increase, $3,050 after change. Travel debited $250 down to 0. Training and education budget before change $250, debited $250 to 0. City Hall maintenance and repairs equipment, budget before change $2,500, increase $100 to $2,600. City Hall materials and supplies, budget before change $10,000, debited by $100. Change after budget, or amount after budget change $9,900. Police Department maintenance and repair buildings, budget to cover budget shortfall. Budget before change 6,800, increased by 2,000 to 8,800. Investigation expenses, budget before change 23,900. Budget change 12,800 to 36,700 after change. Professional services, budget 9,000, debited 2,000, 7,000 after change. Telephone expenses 16,100, debited 5,000, 11,100 after change. Transporting prisoners 7,800, debited 7,800 due to the change in how that's handled. Budget after change 0. Fire department, auto supplies, cover budget shortfall 12,000 before change, 1,200 increase, 13,200 after. Dues and subscriptions, originally 1,600, debited or increased by 500 to 2,100. Utilities, 22,000 before change, debited 1,200. Debited amount after change 20,800. Maintenance and repair of autos, original budget amount 18,000, debited 500, change 17,500. Next is the Parks Department, retirement, originally before change 28,300, the increase of 2,000 after change 30,300. Travel 1,500, debited 1,000, 500 balance afterward. Training education before change 1,500, debited 1,000, balance 500 afterward. Pool professional services, originally budgeted 7,500, increased by $600 to 8,100. Salaries, originally 53,150, debited by 600, down to 52,550. Last line item in streets, retirement, budget shortfall, budget amount before change 29,987, increased by 3,000. Budget after change 32,987. Insurance, originally 19,000, debited to 3,000. Balance after budget change 16,000. Bring the total budget, and again, the beginning budget amount involved $538,484. Again, no change or additional expenditure. Amount after change, $538,484.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions? I'll I'll call for the question, and all those in favor of internal budget revision number 4, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda this evening is General Fund Budget Revision number 7. Mr. Leach, if you would take us through that, please.
Certainly, Mayor. So first, we're looking at the unencumbered fund balance, account 299, and we've got carryover from that that's being applied to the general fund. Current budget $350,000, increased by $771,155 in the capital reserve account, bringing the balance to $1,121,155. Buildings fees plan review, the increase in collections, current budget was $4,450 increase, $64,450. Our next, net increase to revenue is $775,605. Transfers to other funds, transfer to capital reserve, the carryover to the capital reserve, again, $771,155. Council professional service home rule annual fee, as we've discussed before, this fee being imposed to the state for administration of home rule. That fee's $2,000, and that's been, I believe, approved. Building inspection, professional service, additional plan review expenses, $4,000, increased to $4,450 for by $4,450 to a total of $8,450. City Hall utility increase, original budget amount or current budget $15,000, increased by $2,780 after the increase $17,780. Maintenance and repair of the buildings on a budget shortfall. Originally, the current budget is $20,000, increased by $2,000 to $22,000. Utilities budget shortfall, originally budgeted at $43,800, increased by $7,000 to $50,800. That was the Park Department. Recreation, materials and supplies, budget shortfall, original budget amount was $65,650, $10,000 increase to $75,650. And then pool capital outlay, water chemistry controller, originally budgeted at $4,200, increased by $6,000 to $10,200, which I understand had to do with defect in the equipment. But and so for contingencies to cover above the revisions, original budget amount 106,403. 29,780 to 76,623, and the net increase is again 775,605.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of general fund budget revision number 7.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to propose an amendment to the carryover of the 771,155, which is now slated to go to capital reserve, by utilizing half of that carryover for the paving of our streets here in the city with this year's paving projects.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the capital carryover. And did you say 350,000?
It's roughly 385.5. I'm just saying half of the carryover will go to the paving of our streets.
So 50%. Is there any further discussion?
Are we talking the current fiscal year or
Yes, sir.
not the new fiscal year starting 1 July?
Starting when we do our blacktopping this season.
I don't have the budget in front of me. What do we know what the budget figure was for that for this fiscal year?
I have the tentative one, Roger. The amount's $765,000. I would not support Mr. Connolly's amendment simply because to bring this up at this time without even any indication that that's what he would like to do and further studies of where that money would be allocated, I do not believe that this last minute change would be warranted. We typically allocate $500,000 for the street paving, and as I said, the numbers that I saw were $765,000. And the next item on our agenda this evening is the transfer of the coal severance budget of $132,000. So I would rather transfer the coal severance money into the street paving project and allow the full amount of the carryover to be transferred to capital reserve. The capital reserve account, as you all are aware of, is the general fund savings account. And so that money that we allocate every year, we typically start with $350,000 in the budget. The carryover that was excess this year was $771,000. So our total carryover would be $1,121,155, which would then go to the general fund, which can be always brought back. It does not have to stay there. That would be where, if at some point when the actual street paving comes out, if there was an issue that was needed or a different street project, that money can always come back out of the carryover. So that's my.
Well, we've got roughly what 2 weeks left in the fiscal year.
Correct.
And I'm not advocating that we do that in the next 2 weeks. And, as far as the last minute, I mean, we've only had this document as far as knowing what the carryover was going to be, for the last couple of days. So, it's not like this is something that I could have brought up 2 weeks ago because I didn't know what the dollar amount was. Didn't know whether there was going to be a carryover or what the amount would be. And I understand that we typically look at, $500,000 or whatever that number might be on a yearly basis, but we're never going to keep up with the infrastructure issues that we have in this city, whether it be streets or, and I know we're talking about a different fund, but, we've got to start earmarking some of this money for our infrastructure. And to just continually kick the can down the road absolutely is not getting that done. So I strongly recommend, again, we went into this carryover thinking budgeting 350. We have a carryover 771. So, surely we can put another 385,000 in there and blacktop some more of the streets that so desperately needs done in this city.
There is no kicking the can down the road. That money is there at any time for a budget revision to pull that money back out. It's not like it's being hidden, and every year for as long as I can remember, we've always had that same approximate 1 million carryover. And the reason why that is done as it is because you have to allow money for the next first quarter of the next fiscal year in order to operate. And so that's the reason why that our finance department does it that way, so that we have adequate funds to make sure that we can take care of all of the expenses for the city.
So we could revisit this up into the new fiscal year and actually at some point redirect that money?
Anytime you want. Yes, sir.
Has that ever happened before where we've redirected the carryover to work on our infrastructure?
Absolutely.
Could you give me an example of that?
I cannot. You ask me these questions without preparation, Roger. I'm sure I can get you an answer because I'll ask for budget revisions back as far as it takes, but no, I cannot.
And I'm going to comment as well. You know, the street department comes to us with their budget requests. We go through that process. In fact, under considerable criticism, we don't give it enough consideration to just on the fly say, well, let's throw half of this budget reserve toward the streets. We don't even know what that might apply to. It likely would lead to inefficiencies like this influx of cash, and it's not planned for. So I agree that you know, that taking this into consideration after some study and preparedness, which is often not available in these on the fly suggestions. So I also oppose the transfer.
Further discussion?
How much did we take out? I mean, I know he asked for X amount. Do we know off the top of our head how much we trimmed his budget last year from what he asked, what he actually got? Do you remember those numbers at all? I don't.
For the paving projects?
Yeah, for paving projects.
Oh, no, Mike, we spend every dollar we have. I mean, I've got a list of 15 streets. Yes, we'll spend every dollar we get, so.
No, I think you were asking the requested versus what was approved.
Exactly, yes. Do you know that?
I do not.
Okay,
I don't have it. Any further discussion? Then I'll call for the question on Mr. Connolly's amendment to amend the general fund budget by transferring approximately $385,000 over to the street department budget. All those in favor of Mr. Connolly's amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The amendment fails 6-1. We go back to the original motion for the approval of general fund budget revision number 7. Is there any further discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor of general fund budget revision number 7, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. The next item on our agenda this evening is for the coal severance tax. And I'm not going to put it up on the screen. There is only one item on it. So when Mr. Leach describes it, that will be it for the only item on it.
Yeah, the coal severance budget revision number 1, current budget begins at 2,000. The increase is 132,195. After revised budget, 134,195. And the carryover of that monies, as the mayor just described, current budget of 21,600 to the street departments, increased by 132,195 to a total of $153,795.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the coal severance fund budget revision number 1.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve coal severance fund budget revision number 1. Is there any discussion?
Is that money used for blacktopping or other projects?
Goes to, for street projects, paving.
It goes for paving.
That's what it's transferred to, yes, the street
Okay.
department. Yes, sir. Okay. Any further discussion? All right. I'll call for the question. And all those in favor of the approval of coal severance fund budget revision number 1, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number 7 this evening is an ordinance amending 105.02 of our codified ordinances. That is the open market purchases for competitive bidding purchases. It is increasing the amount triggering the competitive bid requirement from $5,000 to $10,000. This item has been on our books since 1992 at that same dollar amount. Unfortunately, the cost of everything has increased in the last 20 years. So that's the reason why it's on here. It's an ordinance amending 105.02 for open market purchases, competitive bidding purchases, increasing the amount, triggering the competitive bid requirement from $5,000 to $10,000. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that 105.02 of the Vienna Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Except as otherwise provided herein, all purchase of materials, supplies, and equipment for the procurement by the city shall be by competitive bidding where the estimated cost or value of such materials, supplies, or equipment exceeds the amount of $10,000. Item B, for the purchase of materials, supplies, and equipment for the procurement by the city of a value more than $1,000 and less than $10,000, the purchasing agent shall obtain and submit 3 prices from the open market of said materials, supplies, and equipment, unless said materials, supplies, and equipment are only obtainable from 2 or fewer sources. In any event, the purchasing agent shall purchase the lowest price qualifying material, supply, and or equipment. To summarize what this basically is saying, it will increase the trigger point from $5,000 to $10,000 on any of the supplies or equipment that the city buys. Anything under $10,000, it can be done by receiving 3 competitive bids from suppliers. Anything over $10,000 must be done by sealed bid, noticed in the newspaper, and approved once the bids are received. So that is what this ordinance is changing. It is raising the amount from $5,000 to $10,000, but everything else stays with the same procedures that have been in place since 1992. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the ordinance amending 105.02 open market purchases.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the ordinance amending 105.02. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I will oppose this, and I want to put some supporting documents to all of you to explain my reasoning for this. And quite frankly, with the track record of this administration on spending money, I believe we need all the checks and balances in place that we can get. And if I was going to vote for a change, it wouldn't be to increase but to decrease. And I'm going to give you all some supporting documents to rationalize what I'm talking about. You can pass them around, sir. I'm often criticized for not giving everybody paperwork, so I want to make sure that I take care of that today and everybody has in front of them what I have. Thank you. The first paper that I passed around here basically has the dollar amount of additional revenues that the city has collected in the last 4 years since the 1% home rule tax went into place. Our 4-year total of additional revenues received in that period of time is $12,614,823.55. The next paper that I handed out, the next 2 papers that I handed out were actually reconciliation of funds, which Mr. Leach goes over once a month. I have 2 of them side by side to allow for a comparison. The first one is January the 10th, 2013, which was the beginning of this administration. The last one I have was the one that Councilman Leach worked off of just today. And I'm going to go over just a few of these line items. The general fund amount in 2013 was $2,321,904. that number's actually gone up a little bit on this particular one that we look at today to $2,954,523. If you look at the capital reserves at the beginning, back in 13, there was $4,920,951. That number has now dropped to $3,754,532 for a combined general and capital reserve of a decrease of $533,800. And even though it is another fund, I'm going to touch real briefly on this as well, just as an example of the spending that I'm talking about. At the beginning of the administration, the enterprise fund with the unrestricted water had a balance of $1,579,239. That number now is down to $328,088. The sewer had at the beginning $1,536,235, and it's now a negative $56,016, and this is after a substantial rate increase went into effect about a year ago. We're looking at liquid assets as a whole at the beginning of having $10,457,000. We're looking now at liquid assets of $7,251,000, which is a decrease from the beginning to now of $3.2 million. So notice in looking at this reconciliation of funds, the most recent one, none of that $12,614 is encompassed into this. We have a total of the $12,614,000 plus the $3.2 million for nearly $16 million. So because of that, that is why I will oppose this and say that we need to have in place every check and balance that we can possibly have going forward.
Any other comments?
Just briefly, Mayor. You know, with reconciliation of funds and to draw a comparison like Councilman Conley is doing doesn't at all take into consideration the details that are behind those numbers, the enterprise fund, the water and sewer hike, and so forth. So to use that as an argument with respect to an ordinance, I'll bring up an issue, for example, in addition to the price increases since 1992. Has been raised by Councilman Conley and Councilman Elam that often we only have one competitive bid. Anybody that has a small business will tell you the competitive bidding to the government is a pain. And often, if the purchasing director is to call you and say, hey, we need XYZ widgets in a quantity for $9,000, can you give us a price? Sure, and they'll give you the price, okay? And you'll get 3 prices. But if you send a competitive bid in, it lands on your desk, it's due in 2 weeks, you're saying for $5,000, I'm not gonna fool with it, okay? So we will get more competitive pricing. And again, to use the argument that it's just irresponsible spending, and so therefore our department heads should not be trusted with discretion between $5,000 and $10,000 is just simply not supported by any experience I have in the city of Vienna. So I believe that this ordinance is appropriate, is in the best interest of the city, and in fact will get us more competitive pricing as we go forward to serve the citizens of Vienna.
Any other comments?
Mayor.
Yes, sir, Bruce.
I'd like to say I'm glad that we have home rule. I'm glad that we have the amount of money that is coming into this city so that we can do special projects for our citizens. The only thing I'd like to say is, Kim, when we had home rule come in place, businesses in this city had the B&O taxes reduced. And to me, B&O tax is a very regressive tax on businesses in this city. So the B&O tax was reduced, wasn't eliminated, but it was reduced substantially. And even with home rule here, we still had to cut out of our budget for the next fiscal year almost $2 million, $1.9 million, which were requests that our department heads asked. And I know that there are things in the city that basically need to be saved for. I will say this, the sewer department spent last month observing by our camera truck over 56 miles of sewer in the city. They went into the sewer and they viewed it. That infrastructure, we need to keep the I&I, the water that comes into our system, out so that it isn't sent to Parkersburg and then we get charged for it. That's what we need to look at first. I agree that we need to keep our roads up, but that infrastructure we need to get done. And I'll say this, if there is sewer problems, what do you got to do? You got to dig. And if those sewer problems are underneath the streets, what do you got to do? You got to tear up the streets. So we need to fix the I&I or the water coming into our sewer system, and we need to keep on for the utility board or the sewer department. We need to look at that first and keep our streets in repair, but we need not to pay the streets and then come back and have to dig them back up because there is I&I in that sewer. So I am glad that we have the amount of money coming in, and I'm glad that we were able to reduce our B&O taxes. Because again, I'll say this, I think it is a very regressive tax, and I'm glad that we were able to reduce it when we did initiate home rule. Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, with all due respect, Councilman Rogers, in regard to the B&O, it was not substantial. It was
No,
a
it was
token.
not. It was reduced.
It was a token reduction. It had to do with not all the businesses in town, but I believe it was manufacturing. By and large, the income that the city received, if you look at your budgets in the B&O tax, you're going to see that we're still basically receiving that same amount of money. This city survived off of that B&O tax for many, many years alone. That money is, again, by and large, still there. And in addition to that, over the last 4 years, we've taken in another $12 million in home rule money. So, you know, we're misleading the folks when we talk about reducing the B&O. Yes, we did, but it was a very, very token reduction that amounted to nothing.
Okay, so let's go through this, Mr. Conley's report, which he continues to feel like it's necessary to spring this on all of us at a council meeting. But let me just give you my take on Mr. Conley's interpretation of this. First off, the enterprise funds, which do not have any reflection whatsoever on our general fund budget, which you bring this thing back from 2013 and show that we had approximately $3 million in those accounts. At that time, our stormwater was $55,000 in the hole, and it now shows a positive side of $230,000. If you add the numbers up for the water and sewer, you will notice now that we are required by Senate Bill 231 to have a reserve in place, which was not required back on the sheet that you present from 2013. And so comparing the enterprise funds and picking and choosing the numbers that you want to highlight doesn't work. You need to look at the total numbers and look at the total package. In that same time that you referred to, that is part of the money that we spent in order to consolidate all of our garages and build the one complex, which you referred to as the Garage Mahal, and have made it into one of the finest maintenance facilities anywhere around. And so when you look at the general fund budget and you refer to the $12 million that has been generated by the 1 cent sales tax, every dollar of that money was budgeted. There is not a supply. This is not an excess or surplus. This is not an excess. Every one of those funds for that $12 million was included in the budget for our revenue stream. So when you say that we got $12 million extra, we generated that through the 1 cent sales tax, but every dollar of that came through the normal budgetary process that this city deals with every year. There was no surplus. That is just simply additional revenue that was generated by the 1 cent sales tax. And so you look at the numbers and you say that, you know, we had 7,242,000, now we're down to 6 million and something. You don't allow for that we spent $1 million on the 28th Street Bridge. You don't allow for all the other projects that have been done and all the good things that have been generated in this city. Home rule was a gift. That is something that has allowed us to increase the services. We've hired additional policemen. We've done all sorts of things to make this city with all those city better with all those additional funds. And so for you to come in and pick and choose with these numbers is really a very unfair comparison, because we should be very grateful that we got home rule, because it's allowed us to do things for a community that our size that a lot of them will never get done. And so every dollar, and you keep referring to the administration and how things need to be so closely documented, every dollar that's spent in this city is budgeted and approved by this council. And so for you to say that this administration, of which you're part of, is doing something wrong, that's totally incorrect. The reason why I asked to have this put on there was simply because we have run into a situation, and Jack Mathers is here this evening and he can verify this. We ran into a situation where we had to go out and inspect an incredibly large tree. Typically, when we have to have a tree removed, it ends up being, you know, $1,000, $2,000, sometimes $3,000. But unfortunately, this particular tree was $7,500. Now, once our forester goes out and he says that tree is a hazard and it has to come down, we're now on the hook. From a liability standpoint, we know there's an issue. If the wind blows it over, if it damages someone's home, we're on the hook. All right? So Jack came, he said the bid came in for $7,500. It's like, wow, if we have to go out for bid on this particular project, it will be 60 days. Because by the time you advertise it in a newspaper, you allow the time for the bids to be in, and then you have a bid opening, it's about 60 days. That's how slow that process is. Now, Jack's put the clock on me to say that we've got a bad tree. It's right up against the back of this woman's house. What are we going to do? So I came to Budget and Finance and said, look, we need to raise this thing a little bit. I had no idea that this had been in effect since 1992. Jack, am I correct on the numbers? All right. And so that's my reasoning for this right here. There are circumstances now that things cost so much money that you don't have time in order to wait 60 days to get this done. I don't want to see something happen to someone, and I don't want the city to be held liable for repairing a house. And so that's the reason. There's just so many things now that $5,000 will not cover. So that's the reason that this is here. We haven't changed it since 1992, and that's the reasoning for that.
And I certainly never, I don't believe, indicated that any money was spent that wasn't part of the budget process. I guess I would conclude that, in my opinion, that the budget process leaves room to be desired, and I will point out that, you know, there's been at least the last two, after I was able to get a little bit more familiar with the budgets, that I have not voted for. And to say that those items are budgeted, I'm not disclaiming that at all. But at the same time, we have got to get our budgets under control. They're out of control. And, you know, and unfortunately, I was not here last week. I'm sure it would not have mattered, but with that being said, I'm talking about the pay raises as well.
Can we deal with those when they come up on the agenda, please?
That's part of this.
No, I don't believe it is.
Yes, sir, it is.
No, I'm sorry. I disagree with you. We'll hold whatever you want to talk about the pay raise to a later discussion. Okay?
I'm talking about past, not coming up. We'll talk about the future pay raises. I agree. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about what's already taken place in the past.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. Part of that monies that we have spent, the millions of dollars, has to do with a couple of items that has to do with pay raises. We can't sustain the pay raises that we've done in the past. If you would, please pass that around. This is the past. This, as Councilman Leach so often talks about, is a total compensation package. This is an employment pie, which I've used for years. This pie indicates how much dollars are spent for payroll, how much is spent for all of the different entities as far as insurance and those types of things. So yes, I agree with Councilman Leach. We have to look at the total compensation package. So what we have done by giving the raises that we have given every year, well, I won't say every year, I'll say the last 2 years. I certainly hope that when that time comes around in the future, that everybody will pull this chart out. Average wage, folks, and I'm talking about 1 to 5 year employees, not anyone with any long-term tenure, but 1 to 5 year employees. And this is with a family plan. So if you have an employee without a family, obviously it's got a smaller pie. If you've got a lot more tenure, it's going to have a lot larger pie. But this is the average with a 1 to 5 year tenured employee. Average wage, $37,003.20. Health insurance, $22,806.48. Vision insurance, $291.12. Dental insurance, $541.91. Vacation and others, $5,692.80. The health reimbursement arrangements, which again, there some may take, some may not, but the ones that do, it's $2,750. Retirement, $3,330.29. SSI, $2,294.20. That comes out, folks, to an annual yearly total of an employee with 1 to 5 years of tenure of $74,710. And that doesn't include the raise that just took place, and let's just say we're talking about the ones that got $1. So you add another $2,080 to that. Now the total compensation package is $76,790. We cannot sustain that. We have to start righting that ship. And the only way to start doing it is it's going to be a process. Now, we talk about this doesn't have anything to do. I beg your pardon, it does. I think we've added about 20 employees, and I'm certainly okay with adding police officers to keep us safe. But we've added about 20 employees since the beginning of this administration. If you take 20 employees and you just figure the low end at $76,790, and obviously going back 5 years, each year would have been a little bit less, but let's just say with an average of $76,790, which, by the way, these numbers came from our HR director out of the mayor's office, so these are not my numbers, they're their numbers. If you look at 20 new employees using this pie chart, that's every year an additional $1,535,800. And we need to start getting this righted, and we need to start doing it now.
Mayor, I think Mr. Skogstad would say we're off the agenda.
Yes, sir, I
Call
tried.
for the
No, we're
question,
not.
please.
Okay. So I'll call for the question then on the ordinance amending 105.02, open market purchases. All those in favor of the ordinance increasing the amount for competitive bidding from 5,000 to 10,000, please signify by raising the right hand. All those opposed? Let the record reflect it carries 5-2. Item number 8 on our agenda this evening is a resolution increasing the annual salary for positions of Computer Systems Administration, Human Resources Director, and Community Events and Planner Coordinator. This resolution increases the annual salary for the positions of Computer Systems Administrator, Human Resources Director, and Community Event Planner and Coordinator. This item is being brought back from the table. We tabled it at the last meeting to come back. In my discussions with Mr. Skogstad, Mike, in order to bring it back, it comes back in its exact form. You may amend it if you can do it to separate them as you requested. So the resolution as it is says, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that the salaries for the position of Computer Systems Administrator and Coordinator, Human Resources Director, and Community Events Planner Coordinator shall be increased effective July 1st, 2019 in the amount of $3,500 per year. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, the resolution be approved. Discussion.
Can I make to have this amended, to have them separated out individually to vote on instead of all three as combined?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. The motion is to amend this resolution to separate the three positions and vote on them individually. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment to separate the resolution so that each of these job categories is separate, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Okay. Okay, 5-2. All right, so we will deal with this individually. So we'll start down the line. The position of Computer Systems Administrator. If you'll allow me just 1 second to pull up a the first position is the Computer Systems Administrator. The gentleman that is in that position has been in that position for 17 years. He basically built every system that we have in the city. He handles all of the police department upgrades and takes care of every software issue for every department in the city. And so I asked him for a snapshot of just the things that they've dealt with in the last 3 to 4 days. The emergency phones in the park office, the Zirkle Field Ops set up for units 142, 133, 128, 129, 132, 140, 141, 144, and 148 for the police department. The Zirkle system is the new computer system that we have purchased for our police department to have instantaneous information to our officers. The Google Calendar login for the city, the expungement for the police department, language pack for the city, call accounting program for the police department, website maintenance and design for the city website, the NVR update for the city police, the fires, the seniors, the parks office, the parks garage, public works, the dash cam for the police departments, computer and printers at the city building, printer inoperable and repair for the fire department, internet issues at the city, missing data from the city, public works, camera connections for public works, a flash drive issue at the city, the nano beam at the senior center, the capture the advanced threat protection update for the city, police and public works, an offline camera at the parks department, vehicle maintenance for the police department, unified cloud key issue update for the city building, a update for the PRTG system at the city, the SC Tech maintenance offline at the senior center, monthly server updates for the police, the city building and public works, processing room video for the police department, forensic investigations for the desktop for the police department, the Jackson Park Wi-Fi for the camera system at the parks garage, and isolate a cloud key issue at the city building. And those are only the items that he has dealt with in the last 3 days. And so when I look at the amount of work that he does with himself and one other operator, he is, compared to the other IT people that are around us, underpaid. And so I asked for the amount of $3,500 to upgrade his salary. In his budget, he asked for a considerable more amount than that. And so this amount was something that I felt like that he would be deserving of. If you brought every department head in this room right here and you asked them how much work that Adam Clegg has done for the city, it's incredible the upgrades that have been made in the parks, the senior center, the city building. It's just incredible. And so that is the reason why that I have asked for that. Mr. Rogers.
I'd like to say this about Adam. When we used to have the college girls tournament in the parks, Western University, which is below Louisville, on all 3 fields that we have where the girls played softball, it was all internet connected. And if there was a girl at Western at their home campus wanted to see the softball game, they could turn on the internet and see the girls playing softball. And that is one of the things that Adam installed for us. And it was a fantastic program. Even with the girls softball tournament for the West Secondary Schools Activities Commission, all 3 fields again can be televised, and that's because of what Adam has installed there for us, plus also the safety cameras that he put in McDonough Wildlife Area, so that if someone's over there and there is a problem, they can receive emergency help. And a lot of these things were thoughts that Adam came up with. So
the cameras that he installed in McDonough Park
Yeah.
allowed us to catch the vandals that were riding 4-wheelers and doing donuts in the big field and destroying it. We've caught vandals in the gazebo in Spencer Park. The security aspect has greatly improved.
Yes.
Are these items that we're talking about not part of a normal day-to-day job description with that position?
Adam Clegg responds to whatever issues they are.
But
Okay?
wouldn't that be part of his job description to do that?
The whole item here with that is he has the training, he has the skill, and he built most of the systems that are here. Chief Pfeiffer, the Zerker system that we're investing a considerable amount of money on, Adam is involved in the installation and upgrade of those things? Yeah, neither could I. Okay, so when you say, is it normal things? Only because he's been here 17 years and he's designed or had input on almost every system that we have.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You know, in looking at this position and the other 2 as well, looking at, well, let's just take this one for now since that's the one we're on. You look at the current salary, the approved raise that we approved last council meeting of the $1, which was for all employees. So this position and the other 2 we're going to discuss here in a little bit was included in that. So based on 1 FTE of $2,080 or 2,080 hours or $2,080, another increase of $3,500 comes to a raise of $5,580, and I am not going to support that. If we want to make adjustments, I mean, I would be open to discussing that. But when you look at the current salary and an increase of $5,580 raise in one fell swoop, I think is excessive, and I will not vote for it.
Do you wish to offer an amendment to submit a
Well,
second?
I mean, we got a couple options. I mean, we can not approve it and just go with the $1, which would be a $2,000 that everyone else got. I mean, if you wanted to look at a $3,500 raise, the difference there's a difference of $1,420 that would be added to the $2,080 that they've already received, equal the $3,500. You know, I might think about that and entertain that, but I will not the 5,580.
So would you like to offer an amendment to raise it or alter it, or what would you like to do, Mr. Bibby?
Mayor, before we get to that amendment, I have just a brief comment on this. And I'm only going to speak to the IT director. I've already opposed separating these out for individual vote, but since we're going to do that, that's fine. But I'm going to limit my comments to this position. So, again, going back to small business and the competitive marketplace and the caliber of people that we have in the city of Vienna, just a brief reference to personal experience, I own a small computer company with my wife in Vienna that was started in 1968 by my wife's father, Bud Collar. And over the years, we've tried to build that company. It's what I would characterize as a mom and pop company, but regardless, over the years, we will develop and train employees proficient, get them Microsoft certified, only to see them taken away by entities such as DuPont, public debt, emerging technologies in oil and gas. And when you invest the kind of years that we have in these employees, we've lost 2 department heads this year. People have perhaps various opinions on whether we're better or worse, but those people were basically, a lot of our institutional knowledge, and that's not reflected any more truly than with Adam Clegg. He's built these systems. He knows inside and out what it is. And so as we were talking about and looking back over Roger's pie chart, average information technology salary, and this is not specific and this is not market research, this is something I Googled while we're sitting up here, comes up at $117,408. So when we're considering this pay raise for a position such as this, we also have to consider the competitive market that we're in. We have to consider the loss to the city if we lose that institutional knowledge in that employee. As far as the mayor has spoken in favor, as I can tell, with respect to Adam. There's nobody up here on council, with the exception of perhaps Kathy, that is going to have the what I'll call insider knowledge or employee performance knowledge of whether, in fact, Adam is worthy of this additional consideration. So with regard to these pay raises, we've got Linda and Stephanie as well. And again, I'm not going to speak again to these, but I'm telling you that these employees have proven their value to the citizens of Vienna, that even with this pay raise, which was singled out from the dollar pay raise based on the performance of these employees individually and recommended by the administration of this city, or put forward anyway, is that, they are in a position to know. I'm not sitting there monitoring their performance every day, but I'm hearing, things from the chief, both chiefs, everybody in the city, as to how they depend on these people, the contributions they make, and I'm talking about all 3 of them. And so that's me speaking my piece on this. I do support the pay raises as proposed.
All right, any further discussion? Then I'll call for the question on the $3,500 salary increase for the computer systems administrator and coordinator. All those in favor of increasing the IT systems administrator's salary by $3,500, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Okay, that fails 4-3. We move on to the human resources director. There again, her salary was put in at $3,500. When you do a comparative salary analysis of the department heads in the city of Vienna, the highest department head in the city of Vienna makes $72,446. The lowest, who is the human resources director, makes $37,252. Our human resources director has, in my opinion, stepped up very much. She handles all of the insurance for the city. She takes care of all of the programs that go along with it. She just, it's a never-ending job trying to manage all of the new things that are coming out in that regard, and keeping up with all of the new laws that are now impacted by the HR system that we live in. So that is the reason why that that salary was put in there. You know, that difference between the top to the bottom as far as our administrative department heads is a $35,000 discrepancy. And I believe that her salary is so low that she is deserving to be raised up as a department head. Discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor of increasing the salary from for the Human Resource Director by $3,500, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Fails 4-3. The last person on here is the Community Event Planner and Coordinator. That salary was also put in at $3,500 increase. I believe that most of you all have been to the events that we put on, and I believe that you all are aware of the incredible reputation that our senior center has. The things that are going on every day up there bring a lot of joy and health to our citizens in town. We've received support from a lot of agencies for the improved programs, for the addition of the new wellness center. And these things take a lot of time to manage and make sure that they run smoothly. And that is the reason why that she was put in for an increase. That is not a 5-day-a-week job. That is a 7-day-a-week job. And there are things going on, evenings, weekends, that require her attention. So that is the reason why that she's in there. Comments? All right, and I'll call for the question. All those in favor of increasing the Community Event Planner Coordinator salary by $3,500, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? That passes 5-2.
Mayor, I wanted to make a comment on this, and I clearly voted no on all three of these as done individually, and I want to explain the reason why that I did that. Is it not on? Yeah. Because it was brought up last week about this, and that's the reason it was tabled, because my indication was that the raise that was passed and agreed upon was the $1 for everybody, which those people were included with. I did not realize, and it wasn't explained to me, or I just didn't get it, that they would get the $1 raise plus the additional $3,500. I voted no, and I want to tell you the reason, because of that. I think it was that additional money. I just couldn't see it at that time. Now, not to say that next year we can look at that individually again, you know, but I just feel that everybody should have gotten the same $1 instead of the additional $3,500. And like you say, I do have some other reasons personally, some input on that may help to me make my decision to vote no. Nothing against them personally. I work with all of them. The IT guy, he does a wonderful job on that. That is his job. The same as the other ones are too. So I would like for this to be looked at possibly in the next budget year a little differently than we have this year. And that's my comments.
Okay. All right. So we move on to item number 9. It may be identified as item number 11 in your packet, but 2 items got scratched this evening, so we're actually on number 9. It's the council agenda documents discussion. We have been asked to take a look at the procedure that we use for distributing documents before the council members receive those documents. Discussion.
Mr. Attorney Skogstad had an ordinance. I don't see it in the Dropbox. Do we know where the status of that? Where did that go?
He emailed it to council. It's in your email.
I understand, but I don't see it here in the Dropbox. Is that not something we're going to discuss that as well? I would think that would be part of the discussion, because he did write an ordinance which included the items that we're talking about.
Look, I got it by email, not in the Dropbox, a direct email.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we're here tonight, is to discuss that. Mr. Skogstad unfortunately is out of town. And so what is council's feelings?
My personal feelings are, if we want to sit here every meeting when we have budget revisions, for example, and spend 15 minutes talking about it, going over it the way we did here this evening, makes not a lot of sense to me, when those documents could just be part of the agenda. I mean, I don't see the downside. I do not see why, if the supporting documents are there and they're ready, that those cannot be shared to save us from sitting up here going through line item by line item in a council meeting, and allowing the folks to have that to be pre-qualify themselves as far as what each of the agenda items concerns.
Are we talking council, the public, or both?
Council receives everything. Mr. Rogers had an issue with an old email address that was not updated, but council receives every piece of information there is. So this discussion is how the documents are presented to non-council members, because council receives everything that we discuss.
Well, I know this is just a discussion, but I'd like to, I don't know if you can do this, but I'd like to make a motion to vote on tonight that the full documents come out with the agenda for the public.
Mayor, I had some comments on that myself. We've heard repeatedly, this has been addressed at the public forum several times, several meetings, how the city of Parkersburg does. The city of Parkersburg does it this way. The city of Parkersburg is transparent. The city of Parkersburg provides the documents. There is nothing to hide, blah, blah, blah. We hear it over and over and over again. Well, there is a distinct difference between the city of Vienna and the city of Parkersburg, and I can point out a couple of those things. We have a part-time city attorney. He also is a practicing prosecutor. The city of Parkersburg has full-time city attorneys. Another thing, they have a clerk that prepares the documents that are given out to people at the time they post their agendas. That is a full-time position for that clerk in Parkersburg. We do not have a full-time paid city clerk in the city of Vienna. To get these documents, the agenda is posted on Monday for a Thursday meeting. It's required by law to do that. I post that agenda, and I use Monday to Thursday to gather the documents, because those documents come from various departments within the city. One of them I will touch on is the reconciliation of funds. That is determined and brought up as of the date of the council meeting. When Councilman Leach addresses the reconciliation of funds, it is for up to date to this meeting. If you post that, then if you post that on Monday, when you're posting the agenda, that document is not going to be correct, because those funds will change from Monday to Thursday. That's just one little thing. Other things too are difficult. The other thing is the resolutions and the ordinances that are prepared. The legal language of those are determined by the city attorney, who also does his work investigating and coming up with the way those things are supposed to be written and what is included or not included in a resolution or an ordinance. Yeah, he for the past 2 weeks prior to this week, he was tied up in a murder trial. He had no other time to do anything. The resolution that was emailed was simply emailed and already amended twice because he did not have time to work on it. Those are things, sometimes I don't get those ordinances or resolutions until the day of the council meeting. It's not hiding anything from anybody, by no means. It's not withholding any information. It's not trying to be non-transparent by any means. And I worked with both of these two ladies here when they asked. It's very difficult to do that and get some of that stuff to you all. Not that I don't want you to have it. You're entitled to have it as much as anybody. But if it's not available and we can't get it to pass a resolution or an ordinance requiring us to do that, it's going to require the city of Vienna to hire additional people. A full-time city attorney who does nothing but get those things done and have them prepared by the Monday that it's time to post them. Yeah, I will not support that. I'm sorry, because it simply cannot workably be done right now in the city of Vienna.
I've got a brief comment as well. This keeps
being cast as an issue of transparency. I can tell you as a council person, there's nothing that's other than what's prescribed by what's allowed to be shared versus executive session. Wouldn't be right to say I don't care whether it's disclosed or not, but I would say that in my experience, notwithstanding comments by many people in this room and also people in council, I mean, we got nothing to hide. It's, and so this is not an issue, as Kim puts it, of transparency. It's an issue of efficiency, as Kathy's described. As far as the documents, I mean, there's been FOIA after FOIA, even by council people, which puts additional burden on city employees, additional cost to the city. Often it's much ado about nothing, in my experience, with respect to what's turned out. Is it proves over and over again, there's nothing being hidden. Everything's budgeted, it's spent according to budget. You get the documents here, council discusses it, we have to have the opportunity to review it. So I just take issue with it. I just don't think it's rationalizing, that this is an issue of transparency. It's simply the efficient operation of the city of Vienna, which time and again has proven it's a top performer in the state of West Virginia. So I oppose it as well.
Would it be fair to say that at times that the agenda is not finalized until the Monday that it's due to go out?
Absolutely.
So sometimes if the agenda is not finalized till the day it needs to be posted, I would find it difficult to maybe prepare and supply a bunch of information based on the deadline that we need to post the agenda. I don't know. It's just, sometimes it doesn't seem like it would be possible. If the agenda is pretty well set prior to Monday or ahead of time, maybe. But I know for a fact, and we all do, that sometimes the agenda is not finalized until posting day. I mean, I don't have any problem with anybody getting any information that they want whatsoever. I don't. And transparency, I get it, and it's fine. I agree with the efficiency part of it as well.
It's just difficult to gather all the information and get it done. I scampered around. I was late in the day today, only because I did not receive one of the documents until about 2 o'clock. And I'm scurrying around to make sure it gets to the people that actually has to have it first, prior to anybody else, I mean, and it is. It's very difficult. And like I say, some of those ordinances and resolutions are not given, and then they have to be put on our letterhead. They have to be amended and stuck on there. Copies. I mean, it's quite a job with a deadline to be met. And there just is not time to say, yes, I can comfortably get those documents available on a Monday to everybody. It's probably not going to happen, and I personally don't want to be in violation of any ordinance or resolution.
Yeah, that was exactly my next comment. I mean, if we would do this as an ordinance or a resolution, which would it have to be? A resolution? Mayor, do you know?
I think he brought it out.
As a resolution, I believe.
Yes.
If we would pass it as a resolution and then we didn't get it done, what position would that put us in?
Mr. Scott sits down here. I don't know the answer.
I understand. It was just kind of a general question.
Yes.
When the documents are ready, what is the issue with them being given out? I mean, I understand if you don't have the time to get it done, but my question is, if the documents are ready, why can't they be released as requested?
Or here, that's the whole thing. I think we keep thinking about, we've got to come up with something, because this is what the citizens want. They want to have, and we keep saying we don't have time, we can't do it. Well, let's think outside the box and do something and get this information. Maybe have to hear at the I mean, when council starts on Thursday. I don't know. I think something needs to be done. Obviously, this is something that once the citizens want to have done, and whether we make a resolution if we can or whatever, we don't have time, whatever. But what can we do to make this happen somehow, some way? It doesn't have to be available the day you post it, Kathy, because I know it is time consuming and things like that. But what else can we do I'm just thinking out, suggestions, all I'm asking for. What can we do as council to better inform our citizens of things that we're discussing here in council chambers?
I have a suggestion on that, sorry. But, so for example, you say this is what the citizens want, all right? Is it, this takes me back to Councilman Bibby saying, you know, I don't remember exactly how you artfully put it, but, you know, what citizens of Vienna want is an efficiently run city, and a city that performs well, you know, with respect outside as well as inside, living here as well as outside objective evidence of how we do. So if you want to know whether this is what the citizens want and whether this is something that we should take up, whether people even look at it, that are our citizens, then perhaps we could put something on our website as in terms of a survey. And then as far as what can be done within our efficiencies, our ability, without doing the things that councilmen don't want happen, hiring additional people, spending additional money on something that really a very few people even care about. So perhaps that's one thing, is put a survey up on the website, see if anyone, in Facebook, see if anyone even responds. Does it matter to you whether we publish these agenda and see what you get? That's one way to see whether, in fact, the citizens of Vienna, this is something, you know, and then as far as what we could do with respect to making documents available, you know, for example, just like Kathy, the example is Russ, or whomever is responsible for producing what becomes the final product to support that agenda item. When it's ready, I wouldn't see any problem with, again, posting that on the website and also tracking and see who looks at it. You know, but to put a mandatory deadline that's arbitrary and also not really, well, I'll just leave it at that, as Russ does. But so perhaps some suggestions like that this is something just like other issues we take a look at over time. We've had a citizen bring it up repeatedly, and it's certainly important to her, but with respect to, you know, just what the citizens of Vienna in general want to spend to have this available on a mandatory deadline seems to me is something we could look at out without too much difficulty a little more closely before we decide I'll do it. And again, I think it's up to we need input from the administration, just like we've gotten tonight. Right, say, well, you know, well, yeah, this sounds great. We all want transparency or whatever, but at what cost and to what benefit? Because that's always what it boils down to, cost and benefit. So perhaps that's something, because that's what we're having as a discussion now, ideas as we move forward, not just to throw this concept out. Because I certainly have no trouble with if documents are available, if the administration says this makes sense for us to do for these reasons, to go do it. Post them on the website.
And I just want to say this, and I understand the one document that you're talking about because I did not get that until late this afternoon myself.
It takes a while to get those things prepared.
I understand that, but why did we not release the supporting documents for the other agenda items as certain people requested? The answer someone gave was that you had to release them. Is that something you chose not to do?
What are you talking about?
To release the supporting documents per the agenda items. They said they was told you needed to release it. You needed to get, and here's where
do you mean like just completely abrogate our normal operating procedures because versus ahead of this discussion?
Why
isn't that why we're doing this?
The supporting documents.
Let me tell you, and I said this before, Roger, and I'm not sure that you understood the significance of this. Okay. We have an issue in the city of Vienna where there is a person that absolutely FOIAs everything that they want. And the issue was brought up that we were not treating people fairly because it depended on who you were, and if you asked for it, you got it, and if not, then it had to be FOIA'd. There is no gray area here. I'm not playing favorites with anyone. I'm not trying to keep anything from anyone. I agree. I don't care about these documents. These documents they're just information. But the fact of the matter is, when we're held to task to say, hold on, you're making me FOIA these, but you're giving them to this person right here, it can't work that way. You have to have a system in, and the reason why that I'm listening to you all, I will do it any way that you all want. I don't care. The documents are not prepared in advance. Monday's when the budget comes out. If you want to do this, then we're going to need a full-time clerk like the city of Parkersburg has, that's her job. Okay? The other thing is, if you want these resolutions and all of the ordinances prepared, then we're probably going to have to go to a full-time city attorney that can do that legal work and not be, I mean, in my opinion, it's an advantage for the city of Vienna to have an assistant prosecutor as our city attorney. I mean, he's got a great legal background right there, okay? But I will do whatever you want, but you have to understand that if you want to do this, then we're going to have to look into creating another position of nothing but the city clerk and getting a more full-time attorney that has the time to dedicate to do the research and write these things. Now, I that's what the discussion's about. You want to, if that's the will of council.
Well, let's just cut to the chase. Tonight's agenda item is a lot longer than normal. I've got all of them printed out. They all have a date of 6/3 on them. Today's the 13th. If these were all prepared on 6/3, why is it a big deal to release them when it's the 13th? It's 10 days. If they're available, release them. Why not? 10 days, Mayor.
You may, I mean, that's when they're prepared as time permits.
That's when I got them.
I don't care. That's not me.
So let's release them.
That is not me. I will do whatever you want, but you're going to have to give Kathy Smith some.
It's 10 days.
You have to ask her.
The documents you're referring to came from Budget and Finance, which were reviewed at the meeting on June 4th.
Some of those
and
can
that's
be
where they
correct, right.
Huh?
If it is something that is
Right.
presented to Budget and Finance, there's no additional preparation between Budget and Finance and the council meeting to get those documents done. They're
So I don't
prepared.
think there's any problem, for example, in my mind, with putting those out, but it goes back to, versus, well, just start doing something differently than we do. We have this discussion, the mayor says, whatever we talk about doing, and I don't know that we need anything to do it except to say, yeah, this is how we're gonna treat everybody the same, and this is what we can do. So if once we have a Budget and Finance agenda, the documents are produced for the meeting, I don't see any problem with putting those up and available, right? That, I think, but again, we just need to agree that's what we wanna do, right? That's our job here.
So the Budget and Finance meeting was on the 4th, correct?
Yes.
And these items were all prepared on the 3rd, so they're actually prepared prior to the Budget and Finance meeting.
Well, the Budget and Finance meeting's at 8:30 in the morning, so I'd say it's pretty mandatory they're prepared the day before.
And there again, sometimes that doesn't get available until that very day before. Now, unless we also want to have one of you all prepare the documents and provide them ahead of time, I'm fine with that too,
All right.
Like I said, I don't have
Whatever
nothing
council
to
wants.
hide, what-
Okay.
Again, I don't, I could say we could get out whatever we could get out that's available, but that kind of leaves well, got this, but it didn't get that.
Right.
Why was this put out and this wasn't?
And it's spending 4 days between Monday and Thursday constantly going back and handing it
And
to
trying
different
to
people.
trying to catch up on who didn't get what.
Exactly.
John got this, but he didn't get this.
Right.
I mean, I don't have any problem with anybody getting any of it. I'm just, maybe we need to think harder about a process.
Well, I mean, it could be as simple as language is published as available, not later than the night, the day of the meeting, just like Budget and Finance. If there's something, a bid or something that we're to consider, and or not a competitive bid, for example, the ordinance we passed, and whatever it might be, and she gets that at 3:30 on the day before Tuesdays or the Budget and Finance, then post it if it's publish as available, not later than the meeting. I mean, I don't know if some kind of language like, and it'd be nice to have Russ's input tonight on this too, but, that way, that goes to your issue, Roger, is to, we're not, it's as available. So there's no delay. Once it's in final form and improved, you put it out. But we're not obligated, or our employees are not obligated to put something out prematurely, for example, before it's ready. Once whatever stamp of approval goes on that puts it in our Dropbox, if again, I don't know, but so I think that's a discussion that needs to go forward, and perhaps Russ could say, draft up, resolution of policy, whatever, that after getting input from the department heads and continue discussion. Because again, I don't think anyone here opposes sharing this information. It's whether we can do it in an efficient and in the best interest of the city and its citizens manner. And I think there's probably a way to do that.
You know, honestly, probably the best thing, so that no one could say that this person got it and that person didn't get it, would be to either post it to our website. You know, the mailing list that the city of Parkersburg uses, only certain people ask for it, so that's the only reason why they get on the mailing list. Okay, that would also include that here. If you don't ask to be on the mailing list, then that's your fault because you didn't request it. All right, so there are options of how you want to distribute that information. Okay.
Agreed.
That information can be, I mean, it's an expense because of, like tonight, there were multiple documents, but there's always the possibility of printing, you know, extra copies and leaving them over there so that if someone wanted to follow the discussion as it went, that you would have a reference paper that you could look at. Okay? There are options. That's the whole point of this is, you know, if you want it done faster than what it gets done, it's going to require a more dedicated effort to get it done. But there are options. It just depends on what you all want to do to answer this request.
How about the Dropbox be put on the city's website, and when it's put in the Dropbox, whoever wants to get on the website can look at the Dropbox? I don't have a, you know, I mean, that to me would be the quickest way, because when
Can they
I
do it?
get them, you know, before
I've
that
seen-
meeting,
I
as soon
think
as
it
I
needs to go-
do that, they go into a Dropbox.
I think the other way around. I think because, you know, I've seen things in our Dropbox that aren't public, right? And so if we start messing around and then all of a sudden somebody makes a mistake or put something out that is privileged for some reason, employee matter, whatever it might be,
And I have pulled
yeah,
things out of the
I think that
Dropbox
it
and
just,
put
it,
them-
I agree, you know, and I don't even know you need to subscribe because it's just there, right? As soon as it goes into Dropbox, it's also a link maybe is posted on the website, some security to it. But I mean, as far as that it's consciously put there as an approved agenda item document, whatever it might be. And then that dissemination, I mean, because anyone here not have access to the website? I mean, it's pretty universal now. And if somebody didn't, then perhaps they'd make that accommodation and put it on a mailing list. But
But you
I
have to
just think
understand,
all it
too,
is just
some
a.
of that stuff that goes into that Dropbox is amended or somehow changed, you know, in between, and removed and then resubmitted to the Dropbox.
Well, I think,
you
yeah,
know,
right.
so that-
I think you might have to post,
so
if it gets amended, you
Some
post
people may
it.
get the first copy, and
Yeah.
some people may get the second copy, you know. I mean, that would be an issue as well.
That's all I'd say about that.
Okay, so that's the discussion. Give it some thought.
With that.
Whatever we can work to make it more accessible, that's fine. It just depends on, you know, we don't want to do it 5 different ways. All right? So we'll revisit that, or, you know.
I would literally propose tonight that what be considered is that Russ draft some language that says that agenda items will be published as available, not later than, and available can be defined as approved by whomever has to say it's good to go to council. As available, not later than, you know, and it could be 5 o'clock today, if that's when it gets done. There's no, you know, we're not limiting. So I would think if we could draft some language like that and put them on the website, because this all goes back to, I really don't think it's an issue of transparency. I don't think anyone is trying to hide a document that we don't want you to see it till council and it's too late for you to do anything. I just don't buy that at all. I've not seen that. It's not in my heart, and I haven't seen it from anyone else either.
Okay, I'll take this to Russ and look for his suggestions. I do believe the issue with the Dropbox has some security issues because you have to have a sign-in to get into that Dropbox. And there may be an issue with that because giving that many
I don't know about it.
passwords
We'll
out
get
for the
it.
Dropbox. But we'll see what it is. But anyway, I'll take that up with Russ.
The agenda is posted on our website, so, I mean, you could take it from the Dropbox and put it on the agenda in that area once it is ready to be put there, so that you don't have to go to Dropbox. You
Right.
can just go to our
Right.
website.
I agree. And it's a lot easier to go to the website than it is that Dropbox too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once it's ready, the agenda item then has a link under it to the supporting documents.
Okay. You know. All right. So we'll take that up with Russ and we'll go from there. All right. All right. Believe it or not, we're to our last item. The last item was a discussion on the economic development position. Mr. Conley, you asked for this?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions. over the last couple of years. And at this point in time, Mr. Thornton has retired, so this is certainly not a personal issue, not that it ever was. But as I alluded to a little bit earlier, we've got to right the ship. Our spending, in my opinion, has gotten out of control. Part of that has been through the hiring process and the fact that we have many more employees than we had just a few short years ago. And at the same time, we have spent a lot of money throughout the city doing things that was supposed to improve our efficiencies. You would expect when efficiencies are improved that would cut down on manpower and not increase it. We're not looking at a situation where the number of citizens have grown substantially. We're pretty much status quo, maybe even down a little bit. So I think now is the perfect opportunity as we start having employees leave. I'm not advocating that, you know, employees get laid off. I'm not advocating that we lay off a bunch of employees, but what I am advocating is that as someone leaves a position, look very hard at that position to see if there's anything that we can do to eliminate that position. You know, in the best case scenario, we was looking at $76,790. Without question, I don't know what that number was, but it's much larger than that with the position that, with the person that just retired. So I don't mean to be babbling on, but you, as the old saying goes, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. This is taking the first bite. I believe we need to eliminate this position. We need to utilize those funds for other things. Going forward, as we have other people retire, we need to look at ways to potentially do those jobs without replacing those positions. We got along with 60 for many, many years. Now we're at 80 plus. Don't guess I exactly understand that. I don't understand why we need an economic development position now when we never had it before. We're not in a situation where, even though I'm very pro economic development, but what are we developing over and above what we had several years ago? In the past, that has always been the economic development position has been the mayor. I think it still should be. So therefore, I'm going to advocate and I'm going to ask that we put up for a vote tonight that we eliminate the position of Economic Development Director.
Okay, so you can't do a vote tonight because it's on the agenda as discussion.
I asked for it to be on there for a discussion and a vote. Is there a reason that wasn't done?
Well, I'll just have to take that up with Mr. Skogstad because it came across as a discussion, okay? But let me, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
but I would like that to be on the next agenda for a vote.
Okay, that can be done. All right, let me give you some numbers that I want you all to consider, all right? 3 years ago, the city of Vienna did $6 million worth of building permits. Last year, the city of Vienna did $11 million worth of building permits. In the last 12-year period, which I asked the numbers to be gathered for, the city of Vienna's building permits have now increased to $16 million. Now, if you want to sit back and look at the city and think that we're not growing, and we are one of the best areas in the state of West Virginia for economic growth, the numbers will dispute that every time. And so when we have people like the Grand Central Mall that comes to us with a $28 million project, that's economic development. And when you have places like Hobby Lobby and the new development at the Big Lots and all of the other significant businesses that are coming into our town, that's economic development. I went to a meeting this week for the Wood County Development Authority, and there was a report presented for a meeting that was held. There were 3 areas of discussion. The Camden Avenue area over there, where all the warehouses burnt down because of the railroad access and the river access, and all of that area that could be developed over there. The second one was the Depot Street area because of the possibility of a port authority. A port authority is one of the most amazing things that can come into a community because it is a hub for all rail, land transportation, river transportation for the movement of goods in and out. It's incredible. I've been to one. It's just amazing what that brings to you. And the third area was the Johns Manville facility in the city of Vienna. Okay? Now, I can tell you right now, if you don't go to these meetings and sit at the table when these discussions are being held, you will not be part of the conversation. I like the growth the city of Vienna has experienced in the last few years. I like the way that the Grand Central Mall is going with this project to give it that new, fresh look, like the Polaris or the Easton Mall in Columbus. That tells me that we're a very vibrant community. And I am firmly committed to the fact that economic development must be a priority for the city of Vienna, because if you do not continue to sell yourself to these new stores, these new businesses, you will never get new families to come. You will never get people to come into our city and eat at our restaurants or stay at our hotels or buy gasoline or other services that we have to offer. You must sell yourself. That's why I'm such a big advocate for all of the high school state softball tournament. People come in from all over the state to be part of that. And that's why I like the college softball tournament. You get people all over the Midwest that come here. That's what drives our economy. That's what allows us to have all of the things that we do. And so, you know, Mr. Thornton's gone. Paul had a very unique resume because he was a city councilman. He was a recorder. He was a policeman. He knew this town inside and out, and everybody knew him. That was something that he built over the years. It'll be hard to find somebody to take his place, okay? But the thing about it is, you know, if you don't look to the future, you will get left behind.
That economic development will happen with or without that position.
Really?
Yeah, it did for years.
Really?
Absolutely. You heard me
Well-
talk many times about the Miracle Mile. That's what this city was known
Yeah,
for.
but that's because you had people like Bob Marshall that sat on this council that had vision, okay?
So nobody on this
and you had
council
people
now
like
has
Bruce
vision.
Rogers and Roger Bibby and Kathy Smith that realized what Vienna has to offer. It's incredible. I mean, I you know, I can sit here and discuss with you everything that this city has to offer, okay? We've got 4 of the best schools anywhere. We've got the lowest crime rate, the 4th
Agreed.
lowest crime rate. We're the 3rd best city in the state of West Virginia to live. Roger, it's not just simple stuff. You have to work at this, and it takes years to get that out there. It does.
And we've been doing it for years. Vienna is a very respected, it's an area that people want to come to. And that's why I tell you, I have no doubt in my mind, with or without that position, that growth will continue. You know, I'm sorry that you don't have the same confidence in this council as you did the ones during the Miracle Mile, but I'm sorry, sir, but that's your job.
Well, you'll excuse me, but Mr. Bibby, you were here when Bill Owens was here, weren't you?
That's not all council, no. Not with,
Okay.
not with Mayor Owens.
Okay, so, you know, but you've been here, what, 18 years, 15 years? How long? Almost 20? Almost 20. Bruce, you've been here longer than that. I have all the confidence in the world. Kathy Smith's been here almost 30.
Paul was a councilman prior to the time I became a councilman. He was with the Mayor Pfeiffer regime.
Yeah.
And then was the only person reelected to Mayor Owens. So,
Anyway, that's my thoughts on the whole
Goes
thing.
back a long way.
We're very blessed because we're moving. Yes, sir.
So I want to start this out with, who still has an AOL account? Anybody? If you don't keep up with the times, if you don't keep pace with what's going on, what's being advocated here, it's a couple of things. So, of points that Councilman Conley made. He said that as we've invested in the city, would be increasing efficiency. Our goal, efficiency is important, but what we're trying to increase is the quality of the service to our citizens and the quality of life in Vienna. You know, you can't always cut your way to prosperity. This economic development position that we're talking about, let's just in round numbers say that's a $100,000 a year position. You listen to the building permit numbers, you see the development that's going on and the intangibles that are involved. And I'm not going to go all back. We had this conversation when Mike wanted to eliminate the position in a budget cycle or 2 ago. So I'm not going to go all back into that. I mean, I did the research then. But, you know, the services that we're talking about. So you draw these. It's just like the comparison between 2013 finance report and today, okay? You can't do it that way. You have to look at what are we talking about. So as in my experience on council, the things that we've talked about is Steve Black coming in here and saying, you know, our Christmas light show is a tremendous hit. I want another 10 grand for that. And then always to me, is it being utilized? Is it value? When Linda was in here talking about these bus trips and we're putting the money to those, how well are they attended? These things that we're doing for the kids, are we drawing? I have 4 children, and your children are younger. My children are grown and making their life decisions about where they're going to live. My son's here practicing law, living in Vienna. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to build through the economic development, that these economic opportunities are here for our children. My daughter just graduated from law school. I'm like, honey, gotta take a job, practice. Morgan's got hung out a shingle here. He's not working for me. He's doing his own business. All right, you can't necessarily, and when you talk about attrition, when you talk about efficiency in terms of should we reduce our number of employees through attrition by retirement or whatever exit, there's a big difference between an employee and a department head. And just because the economic development position hasn't been in Vienna forever doesn't mean that that's a meritorious department that we need in the city of Vienna that's got demonstrated results. And I'm going to finish where I started. Who's got an AOL account? We got to keep pace with the times, and people have to compete for this economic development. The example is we see, and I mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. We've got Emerson Commons out there, all right, that they are a TIF, all right? They are developing. They want to compete with businesses that we need in Vienna, all right? And it's going to happen, that kind of thing. And the performance of the city of Vienna, when we are not in the midst of this oil and gas boom like so many other regions in the state of West Virginia, and we're still competing, and we're still a vibrant community, those are the things that we got to look at. So again, I think it's short-sighted and ill-advised to consider eliminating an economic development force in the city of Vienna, and it is a job that takes constant attention to achieve these kinds of results that we're seeing.
I'll make my comments quick. So you've been here for a long time, but yeah, Mr. Leach and I, we've always disagreed about this, but yeah, with the economic developer, I mean, we share these numbers out. I know you guys cut on Roger for throwing numbers out. These numbers you come up with, mayors, I just don't. I talk about return on investment, what we're paying for this position. I get those. I used to get monthly reports of what he did. Go to JCPenney's, go to Bell. I mean, little things like that. There's just not a need for a $100,000 position total package to have an economic. We have Wood County. These people with our police department, your schools you keep talking about, and all these things. This city sells itself. To have one person go out with a position we never had before the Miracle Mile was made. Now all of a sudden we have to have economic developer. Once again, there is no return on investment from. I never hear people, hey. Comes in my head, we came here because the economic developer came up and talked to me and he got me coming here. I haven't heard that stuff. These people are going to develop. The mall's going to develop. They have to keep up with the times. The mall's dying, so they're coming out with this new Easton Shopping Center. It's going to be great. But to have say the economic developer created that stuff, it's not needed. I mean, that's before the mayor did. I know you're busy too, but to have a town of 10,000 to have an economic developer, it's just not a needed position. I won't change mine. I hope you vote on next week. I know, Bruce, at one time you said you were against it when it first came out, so I hope you vote against eliminating the position. And Mr. Bibby, I call on you. I know Kathy, Randy, and Jim are going to vote for it, but I call on you guys to eliminate this position in the next council meeting.
And I'll add this. The county does have an economic development
Exactly.
person that is extremely good.
She's good.
She's a professional. She lives in Vienna. Let her handle what she does. She won't miss a beat.
Anything else? All right, that concludes our council agenda for this evening. Any council comments?
Mayor,
Yes, sir, Bruce.
I'd like to say this, something that may have been misconstrued, but during the last council meeting, I did not receive the ordinance dealing with do not feed the deer. I think it was because of a glitch with my email account, but I don't know. But it was not also put in the Dropbox, so it was not there. And despite what it is, Mike and I both do not feel that deer should be fed within the city, so I want to say that personally for myself, okay? I was coming back across Woodland today, and there were 3 deer beside the road eating at 12 o'clock a day. So, you know, I do know that there is a problem of deer in this city. I do not support a deer hunt in McDonough Wildlife Area, but I do hope that something is done sometime. And that's all. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Roger, a reminder about the social? I know Steve already did.
6 o'clock tomorrow. Cake, ice cream, hot dogs, popcorn, snow cone, activities for the kids,
Coffee?
prizes, some pretty nice prizes given away. So go support the fire department.
Good weather.
Good weather, 75 and sunny.
Tomorrow is Flag Day.
Right.
We will have our regular ceremony at the flagpole out front at 9 o'clock. You're welcome to come. If you don't come, at least say a prayer at your flag at home. Thank God we live in this country and ask for his continued blessings. Next council meeting will be a regular council session on June the 27th at 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned.